Hey boos, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my meatloaf. Today we are going to be making turkey meatloaf. However, you can use the same recipe for beef. I'm also going to be showing you guys how I make my glaze to go on top. So stay tuned and I'll show you guys how to make this delicious recipe. So here's all the ingredients we'll be needing for this recipe. Also, guys, make sure you check the description box below where I post the full recipe and step-by-step directions. So we are going to be using Prego Italian sauce, complete seasoning, Lawrys seasoning salt, black peppercorns, minced garlic, spicy brown mustard, Worcestershire sauce, Cajun seasoning, teriyaki sauce, and ketchup. And for herbs and spices, we are going to be using about 3 stalks of chopped scallion, 1 medium-sized onion chopped finely, and 1 sweet pepper chopped finely, and then 1 Scotch bonnet pepper with the seed removed chopped finely as well. Then I have this pack of fresh herbs. It comes with some rosemary, some thyme, and some sage. And then for me, I am using about 2 pounds of turkey meat. If you do not have turkey meat or you don't like turkey meat, you can always substitute this for ground beef. Alright, so let's get into the video. So first, I'm going to start off by adding a cup of milk to a bowl. You want to make sure your bowl is big enough to fit all of the ingredients in. And after I have added that milk, I'm going to add 3 slices of bread. And I'm just going to keep this simple and break this up with my hands. And once I'm done breaking that up, I'm just going to take a fork and push that bread down into that milk. We really want that bread to really soak up that milk. And once I'm done doing that, I'm just going to set that aside so that milk could really soak up that bread. In the meantime, I'm going to whisk 2 eggs. For every pound of meat, you want to use 1 egg. Seeing that I'm only using 2 pounds of meat, I am only using 2 eggs. However, if you're using 3 pounds, of course, you would use 3 eggs. And next, I'm going to take those eggs and just combine it with that milk and bread mixture. And then I'm going to add in the ground turkey. Now it's time to add the seasonings. I am going in with a 1.5 teaspoons of Cajun seasoning and 1 teaspoon of Lawrys seasoning. Then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of complete seasoning and 2 teaspoons of black peppercorns. Then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, and 2 tablespoons of that Prego tomato sauce. And then I added about a handful of fresh thyme, sage, and rosemary just to really bring out that flavor in that meatloaf. Then I added about a cup of scallions and 1 Scotch bonnet pepper chopped finely with the seeds removed, and 1 sweet pepper chopped finely, and 1 medium onion chopped finely. So once we are done adding in all our herbs and spices, I am just going to mix this all together. As you can see, the way I'm mixing it, I'm just kind of folding it into each other. You want to make sure you don't over mix this meatloaf because it can become very dry. And that is the last thing you want. Alright, so once we're done mixing that, you want to get you either a meatloaf pan or a regular pan. It really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure you spray it with some cooking spray. That way the meatloaf doesn't stick to the bottom. But I like to use the meatloaf pan. That way I really don't have to worry too much about shaping it myself. By all means, if you want to shape it yourself, go ahead and do that. Once we have added all of the meatloaf mixture to our pan, I'm just going to go in and flatten it out a little bit. And then I'm going to smooth it a little bit with my spoon just to make sure everything is the same level. Be careful when you're smoothing it out that you're not patting it down too hard, because again, that could make for a dry, rough meatloaf. And like I said earlier, we do not want that. Okay, so now that we're finally done, we are going to pop that in the oven on 350 for about 40 minutes. And while that's in the oven, we could get started on making our glaze. So this glaze is really simple. I'm going to start off by adding 5 tablespoons of ketchup, and 2 tablespoons of teriyaki sauce. Then I'm going to go in with 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce and 2 teaspoons of spicy Dijon mustard. Then I'm going to add a tablespoon and a half of sugar. And guys, I'm telling you, with all of these ingredients mixed together for the glaze, girl, you guys will never go back to just using ketchup again after y'all try this glaze. Okay, so once we have added all our ingredients, we are just going to mix that really well and make sure everything is combined. And this is what the consistency of your glaze should look like. Okay, now that we're done with that, we are going to set that aside and check on our meatloaf. Okay, so I have just taken the meatloaf out the oven. It's been 40 minutes. As you can see, it's not done yet, but that's perfect because this is the best time to put the glaze on top. And all I'm doing right now is I'm just going to take that sauce and I'm going to add it on top. I didn't use all the sauce. I only ended up using half. I'm just going to use my spoon to smear this, but if you guys have a brush, you can use that instead. But don't feel like you need to go out to the store and get one. So now I'm going to put this back in the oven on 350 for 15 to 20 minutes. It's been about 20 minutes and this is what my meatloaf is looking like. And since I added that cooking spray, it was super easy to get out of the pan. So right now I am just going to add in some parsley to garnish. And then I'm going to cut into this so you guys can see how juicy and tender that meatloaf is. But before we cut into that meatloaf, you want to make sure you let it rest for about 15 minutes. That way, when you cut it, all the juice is not running out of it. You want to keep that juice inside so that moisture could stay inside that meatloaf. All right, so now I'm going to cut my first piece. As you can see, when I cut into it, it is moist and juicy, and it is so tender that when you cut it, it just cuts on its own. You don't got to do too much work. And as you can see, as I'm pressing my knife on that meatloaf, you see that juice on the side. You could just look at it and tell it's juicy. All right, and that is the final product, guys. If you guys like this video, be sure to hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe. And if you're already subscribed to me, make sure that notification bell is on. That way you can get notified every time I post. Also, if you guys have any questions or suggestions on what you want me to make next week, feel free to leave that in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.